What makes a man's story echo through centuries, touching the hearts and souls of millions across the world? Today, we're diving into the tale of such a man, Abraham, a figure revered not just in one, but in three of the world's major religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. This isn't just a story, it's a journey through time, faith, and promises that have shaped the world as we know it. Abraham's tale begins in a world vastly different from ours, an era when towering structures like the Tower of Babylon were more than just marvels of architecture. They were symbols of humanity's aspirations and failures. In the chapters ahead, we will walk with Abraham through his life's journey. From his call to leave his homeland, to the trials and tests that shaped his faith, every step of his path was laden with significance. Before we delve into Abraham's life, it's crucial to paint a picture of the world he was born into. Picture a time vastly different from ours, a world emerging from the shadows of a monumental event, the fall of the Tower of Babylon. This wasn't just a physical collapse, it symbolized a major shift in how people communicated and connected with the divine. In the aftermath of Babylon, humanity found itself grappling with a new reality. Languages were scattered, creating a babel of confusion. This disarray wasn't limited to speech alone, it seeped into the spiritual realm. People started to lose sight of the God they once worshipped. In their search for something tangible, they turned to idols, objects they could see and touch. These weren't just statues, they were symbols of a deeper spiritual crisis perhaps, a move from worshipping the unseen to adorning the creations of human hands. This era was marked by a significant decline in spiritual direction. People were no longer united in their beliefs or practices. Every group, every tribe had their own gods and their own ways of seeking divine favor. It was a fragmented world, spiritually adrift and searching for meaning. It was into this tumultuous world that Abram was born. His birth wasn't just another event in the annals of history. It was a turning point, a moment that signified a shift back to monotheism, the worship of one God. Let's turn the pages back to the early life of Abram, later known as Abraham, and explore his origins. Born around 1948 after creation, or 1813 BCE, Abram entered the world in Ur of the Chaldees, a prominent city in ancient Mesopotamia, now modern-day Iraq. His father, Terah, a notable figure in Nimrod's court, was 70 years old at the time of Abram's birth, and his mother was named Amathlah. Abram wasn't the only child in the family. He had two brothers, Nahor and Haran. Haran, the father of Lot, tragically died in his native city, leaving Abram and his remaining family in Ur. This city, a hub of ancient civilization, was steeped in a rich culture, but also deeply entrenched in idol worship, setting the stage for Abram's later spiritual rebellion against polytheism. Now, about Abram's life partner, he married Sarai, known later as Sarah. She is an integral figure in the story, not just as Abram's wife, but as a matriarch in her own right. Portrayed across Judaism, Christianity, and Islam as a woman of piety, renowned for her hospitality and beauty, Sarah's journey alongside Abram is pivotal. However, they faced a significant challenge early in their marriage. Sarah was barren, a situation that carried deep personal and social implications in their time. As we weave through Abram's early life, it's essential to understand the land and culture he was born into. Ur was more than just a city. It was a symbol of the era's spiritual and cultural identity. Amidst this backdrop, Abram's later call to leave his homeland and his family's polytheistic beliefs becomes even more profound. This was a world where gods were made with hands, and the concept of a single unseen God was revolutionary. Abram's journey to Canaan, a crucial chapter in his life, began in Ur of the Chaldees, an ancient city in Mesopotamia. Ur was a major cultural and religious center, known for its impressive ziggurat, dedicated to the moon god Sin, otherwise known as Nana. However, Abram's life took a dramatic turn when God called him to leave this land of his birth. God's call to Abram was profound. Leave your country and go to the land I will show you. This wasn't just a physical journey, it was a spiritual quest. God's promise to Abram was significant. He and his descendants were to be given the promised land of Canaan, marking the beginning of a covenant that would become a central theme of the Old Testament. Accompanying Abram on this journey were key family members. his father Terah, his nephew Lot, and presumably his wife Sarai. The first leg of their journey took them to Haran, a city about 600 miles upstream along the river Euphrates. Haran was an ancient city, even at that time, founded by settlers from Mesopotamia in the 18th century BC. It's known for its unique beehive-shaped mud brick houses, a testament to its long history. In around 1855 BC, Abram, along with Lot, took a significant step towards Canaan, a journey of about 400 miles. They set off with their tents and flocks, embarking on a path that would lead them into the heart of what would become a land of great promise and pivotal events in the history of the Abrahamic faiths. Abram's departure from Ur, his stop at Haran, and his eventual journey towards Canaan were more than just physical movements across a map. They symbolized a departure from the old ways of life, a breaking away from the prevailing culture of idolatry, and a step towards a new kind of faith. Abram's journey was not without its trials, the first of which arose when a severe famine struck Canaan. Facing this dire situation, Abram made a decision that would test his faith and integrity. He decided to move to Egypt to survive the famine, a decision he made on his own, without divine guidance. It was a move driven by fear and necessity rather than trust in God. As they approached Egypt, Abram became acutely aware of Sarai's beauty and the danger it posed. Fearing that the Egyptians would kill him to take Sarai, Abram asked her to say she was his sister, not his wife. This wasn't a complete fabrication, as Sarai was indeed his half-sister, but it was a half-truth designed to protect himself. Upon their arrival, as Abram had feared, Sarai's beauty caught the attention of Pharaoh's officials. She was taken to Pharaoh's palace to become part of his harem. In return, Abram was treated well and given gifts, including sheep, cattle, camels, and maidservants. One of these maidservants was Hagar, who would later play a significant role in Abram's story. However, this deception did not go unnoticed by God. In response to the mistreatment of Sarai, God inflicted diseases on Pharaoh and his household. Realizing the truth, Pharaoh confronted Abram, asking why he had deceived him. Sarai was returned to Abram, and Pharaoh commanded them to leave Egypt, ensuring their safety and allowing them to take the gifts he had given them. This episode in Egypt, though fraught with moral complexity, ended with Abram's wealth increasing significantly. But it also highlighted the risks of his actions and the consequences of not fully trusting in God's plan. After Abram and his nephew Lot returned from Egypt, they were both very wealthy, each owning a significant share of livestock and other goods. However, they soon encountered a problem. The land in Canaan could not support the large number of animals they needed to feed. This issue was exacerbated by the Canaanites, who occupied much of the desirable land. The limited resources led to tensions between the herdsmen of Abram and Lot. To resolve this conflict, Abram proposed that they separate to avoid further strife. He offered Lot the first choice of land. Lot chose the lush, green plains of Jordan, near the wicked city of Sodom, seemingly disregarding the moral character of its inhabitants. Meanwhile, Abram stayed in Canaan. After their separation, God reiterated his promise to Abram, assuring him that his offspring would be as numerous as the dust of the earth, and that all the land he could see would be given to them. Subsequently, a significant conflict erupted involving 9 nations, 5 kings versus 4 kings. The alliance of 4 kings, including King Chedorlaomer of Elam and King Tidal of Goyim, defeated the 5 kings, including the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah. During this conflict, Lot, who was living in Sodom, was captured and imprisoned by the enemy soldiers. Upon learning of Lot's capture, Abram acted swiftly. He gathered 3 18-trained men from his household and pursued the 4 kings. They divided into separate units and launched a surprise attack at night, successfully defeating the 4 kings. Abram rescued all the people captured by the enemy, including Lot, and recovered all the goods that had been taken. After the rescue, Abram was met by the king of Salem, later known as Jerusalem. This king, who was also a priest named Melchizedek, provided Abram and his soldiers with food and wine. In gratitude, Abram gave him a portion of the goods he had recovered. The king of Sodom also offered Abram goods that had been stolen during the war, but Abram refused, not wanting to be associated with the wicked city of Sodom. He only accepted the food and drink consumed by his men, and the fair share of goods that belonged to them. Through these events, Abram demonstrated not only his loyalty and bravery, but also his integrity and commitment to righteousness, qualities that further established his role as a patriarch and a man of faith. The story of Abram, who later became Abraham, is deeply intertwined with God's covenant and promises to him. This covenant is first introduced in Genesis 12:1-3, where God tells Abram to leave his homeland for a land that God would show him. The promise was profound. God would make Abram into a great nation, bless him, make his name great, and ensure that all the families of the earth would be blessed through him. Later, in Genesis 17, God elaborates on this covenant. He promises Abram, "You will be the father of many nations." This is when God changes Abram's name to Abraham, signifying his role as a father of a multitude. The name change from Abram, which means exalted father, to Abraham, father of a multitude, reflects the magnitude of the promise God made to him. Additionally, God reassures Abraham that he would have an heir from his own body, and that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the sky. This statement of faith was so significant that it was credited to Abraham as righteousness. To solidify this promise, God made a covenant with Abraham, which was marked by a unique ceremony. Abraham was instructed to sacrifice animals and lay them out in halves, creating a path between them. This act of cutting a covenant, as the Hebrew word karet implies, was a solemn and binding agreement. In a deep sleep, Abraham received a vision from God, foretelling the future exodus of his descendants from Egypt, and reiterating the everlasting nature of this covenant. The covenant had several key elements. It was a covenant of grace, bringing about a redemptive purpose by making a separate nation from Abraham's descendants, the Jewish people. It also promised the land of Canaan to Abraham's descendants, and extended blessings to all the families of the earth, symbolizing the inclusive nature of God's plan. The land promise was particularly significant, as Canaan was inhabited by formidable peoples, making the promise seem almost impossible at the time. Initially, God's promise to Abram, later renamed Abraham, was monumental. God told him to leave his homeland for an unknown destination, promising to make him a great nation, bless him, and make his name renowned. This promise included an heir from his own body and descendants as numerous as the stars, Genesis 12:1-3, and Genesis 15:4-5. This was significant because, at that time, Abram and his wife Sarai, later Sarah, were childless and aging. God reaffirmed this promise and changed Abram's name to Abraham, meaning father of many nations. Similarly, Sarai's name became Sarah, indicating her future role as the mother of nations. However, the ultimate test of Abraham's faith came when God commanded him to sacrifice his son, Isaac. This command was a shock, because Isaac was the long-awaited child through whom God's promise was to be fulfilled. The idea of sacrificing one's own child, though extreme, was seen as an ultimate act of devotion and obedience to divine will in that era. Abraham's internal conflict during this ordeal was intense. He had to balance his love and paternal duty towards Isaac against his unwavering faith in God. There's, however, a significant contention among Judaism, Christianity, and Islam regarding who the promised child really was. In the Bible, Isaac is identified as the son Abraham was commanded to sacrifice. However, the Quran identifies Ishmael as the son to be sacrificed. This difference is pivotal in how the three religions perceive Abraham's test of faith. In Islam, the sacrifice of Ishmael is commemorated during Eid al-Adha, reflecting the significance of this event. Conversely, in Judaism and Christianity, the focus is on Isaac, aligning with the biblical narrative. This divergence in interpretation has profound implications for the understanding of Abraham's faith and the subsequent religious traditions of these faiths. As Abraham was about to sacrifice Isaac, he was stopped by an angel sent by God. This intervention occurred just as Abraham had bound Isaac to an altar and was ready to perform the sacrifice. The angel's appearance was a clear indication that God was testing Abraham's faith, not actually demanding a human sacrifice. Recognizing Abraham's devotion and obedience, God provided a ram as an alternative sacrifice. Abraham then sacrificed the ram in place of his son Isaac. The immediate aftermath of this event was significant for Abraham and Isaac. It demonstrated Abraham's deep faith and commitment to God, even when facing an incredibly difficult decision. This story is often interpreted as a shift away from human sacrifices, common in ancient times, towards animal sacrifices. It also underscored the importance of obedience and trust in God, which are central themes in Abraham's story. After Sarah died, and in Abraham's old age, he married Keturah, who is referred to in the book of Genesis as another wife or concubine of Abraham. With Keturah, Abraham had 6 sons, adding to his legacy. There is some debate among scholars and religious commentators about Keturah's identity. Some traditional Jewish sources, like the Midrashic work Genesis Rabbah and the commentator Rashi, suggest that Keturah and Hagar, Abraham's earlier concubine and mother of Ishmael, might be the same person. However, this view is not universally accepted, and many argue that Keturah and Hagar were distinct individuals based on the biblical text and other Jewish traditions. However, Abraham's marriage to Keturah and the expansion of his family further demonstrate the fulfillment of God's promise to make him a father of many nations. Abraham is a linchpin in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. He is the founding father of Jews, the spiritual progenitor in Christianity, and a prophet in Islam. Each religion sees a different facet of his story, but all agree on his unwavering faith and obedience. And across cultures, his story has inspired countless artworks, literature, and music, focusing on moments like the sacrifice of Isaac and his meeting with Melchizedek. His story transcends religion, becoming a symbol of faith and obedience in the human experience. As we come to the end of Abraham's tale, we're left to reflect on the themes of faith, trials, and promises that weave through his life. His story is more than just a religious narrative. It's a journey that challenges us to consider our own beliefs and the depth of our faith. Abraham, the father of nations, stands as a testament to the power of unwavering trust in something greater than ourselves. What do you think? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comments. And as always, please like and subscribe for more content just like this. Until next time.